Barnes,
Excused.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter,
Here.
Councilmember Orr,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Woodall.
Here. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Public reason. Hearing none, a member of the public who would like to remove something from the consent calendar. Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar? I so move. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Vote passes 4-0. Reports and staff communications, page 54 in our packets. And I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Carter and members of the council. We do want to just point out that former Rio Dell police officer Nick Carnahan has recently been in the news quite a bit and received a lot of praise for his actions back on April 13th when he helped save the life of an infant who was choking. So Carnahan now works for the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, but his first place of employment, and FTO was right here in Rio Dell. We're very proud of him. Staff has been meeting with representatives from FEMA and their hazard mitigation grant program to discuss a potential solar project at the corporation yard that has the potential to dramatically extend energy independent water and wastewater services, including during the event of an extended power outage. While this is a rare project for the hazard mitigation grant program, representatives felt that it was a viable project to continue. So in the calculation, we've been working with Redwood Coast Energy Authority on that, and with the appropriate sizing of the solar grid's potential possible to have a all but islanded system except for the month of December. When the sun is just too low, there's too many clouds in the sky to potentially have the site run almost exclusively with solar energy. Also want to make sure that the public is aware that the California Seismic Safety Commission will be holding a hearing at the River Lodge Conference Center in Fortuna on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2023, starting at 4 p.m. and potentially lasting as late as 10 p.m. The main topic of which is the December 20th, 2022 earthquake. Members of the public are urged to attend and provide public comment on their concerns, on their observations or other issues related to the earthquake. Various state and local leaders will also provide testimony and also be in attendance. With that, Mayor Pro Tem Carter, we're happy to answer any questions that the council may have, and I'll return back to you.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Questions on the staff report? Councilmember Will. No questions. Councilmember Wilson.
You might have had one earlier. Let's see. No, if I don't know, I won't do it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Orr.
No question.
I wanted to know if we did have a date set with GHG to look at the contact basin. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Exciting stuff. Okay, I'm glad to know that there's a set date. I'm also really glad to know about the Seismic Safety Commission meeting. I think that's gonna be a really important forum. We all have lots of thoughts and feelings about the way that this disaster went down, and that would be a lovely place to go and share those. So, thank you for including that in the staff report. Other than that, I have no questions. Does any member of the public have questions about anything they heard in the staff report? Hearing none, we will move on to special presentations for study sessions. This is an exciting one. We have a presentation on the Great Redwood Trail. That starts on page 60 of our packet. So I will hand it over now to Simone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here in person.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Do I need to do anything, or is this okay? Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, Melissa, for help with my presentation pull up and also the USB. Well, I just want to say, so I'll maybe introduce myself first. Hi, my name is Simone Najan-Bleiton. I am one of the planners that is working on the Great Redwood Trail. I'm hired by the State Coastal Conservancy. I'm one of 2 project managers hired by the State Coastal Conservancy to work on the project and to help provide some interim staffing for the Great Redwood Trail Agency, formerly known as the North Coast Railroad Authority. So that's a little bit about myself. And I met Amanda at the Humboldt Trails Summit and started hearing about how excellent Rio Dell was and how you guys didn't want to be missed by the trail. And we have spoken also. I got a chance to speak with some of your staff to interview to help inform our operations and maintenance plan. So yeah, we're excited to be speaking with you all today, but I did just want to give you guys an overview of what's happening with our master plan and a little bit of what we've been hearing so far, and kind of, just some initial thoughts on how we can address this issue of the railroad going on the other side of town, and just, get some thoughts and feedback and to start the conversation. So I guess, let me see if this is the other one. Oh, maybe I'll do it one more time here. You gave me such a great tutorial. Did I not working for some strange reason?
It might have been left on after the last.
Okay, hold on. Maybe you guys can get your help with the next slide. Things. Sorry, I almost lasered you, Councilmember. All right, well, thank you so much. Well, so what is the Great Redwood Trail? I'm sure that some of you are familiar, but the idea and the concept of the Great Redwood Trail is that it will be a 316-mile project, a rail trail that will travel all the way down from Larkspur up around Humboldt Bay and end around Blue Lake or Samoa, I guess, depending on what you think the end of it should be. It follows the inactive North Coast Railroad Authority rail line. And we're hoping, and this is one of the goals that's coming out of it, is that it can be a transformation. It can transform this rail corridor into a community asset instead of kind of an area for blight that it has been, and help to be an economic boon or an engine for the North Coast. And so let me just try it if it works, but I might need your help on the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. And so what are rail trails? This is not something that is new for the entire US, and it's a model that's being used even around the world. And so a rail trail is typically a multi-use public path that's created from the former railroad corridor. Railroads are perfect for making trails, especially making trails that are accessible for families and kids and people with, mobility issues and disabilities, because you already have this very flat, easy grade to be able to use. And, it's not, there are a lot of railroads in the country that the rail line has not worked out. And so this is a model that's used to make use of that inactive railroad. And so there's over 25,000 miles of these in the US. and over 1,000 miles of these types of trails in California. So this is, and there's quite a few in your county as well that we'll go over. But so they're a great way to help support recreation and economic development, tourism, and also help with environmental restoration in these areas, and particularly in towns and small rural areas. Next slide. And so you all may be very familiar with this, but just a little overview of how we got to the point where this will become a trail, at least definitely throughout Humboldt County. In 1998, the railroad ceased operations. Nothing really happened. I think we have a lot of records of rumblings, people trying to do something better with the railroad, trying to restart it. But one thing that did happen around here is that in 2001, the Humboldt Bay Trail feasibility study started, and there was started to be a lot of looks at what could be done with the rail corridor and if part of it could become a trail. And so we know that by 2018, State Bill 1029 was passed, and that called for a feasibility study and kind of looking at the agency, what to do with it, and also looking at whether or not this was even feasible to become a rail trail. And in 2021, with the results of those reports, the Great Redwood Trail Act passed. And what that did was transfer the portion of the rail line that is in Sonoma and Marin counties to SMART, the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit. And then, so that means that the Great Redwood Trail Agency now manages from Mendocino County north. So that's why this master plan, we're really only looking at the Mendocino County north portion, because SMART, they are doing rail, and they're trying to extend rail, and that will be a rail with trail project in Sonoma and Marin counties. And it also, this bill required us to undertake this federal process called rail banking, which we have done. And so the corridor is now rail banked, which means that it can be used for interim use as a trail. Pending if a railroad could ever come back and be viable, then it could become a rail again. But we're preserving the corridor, which is a very special asset. And then from 2022 to present, we finished this rail banking, and then we started the master plan. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to give you an update on the master plan. Next slide. And if you hit it one more time, I've got a fun. Here we are. So we are halfway through the master plan timeline. We started in very late 2022. We're hoping to finish by spring 2024. So what we've done so far is a lot of listening, learning. We've had all these different types of public surveys available. We've started having public meetings. Our first two were in Fortuna and in Willits. We're having lots of different small group meetings. Our consultants are attending tabling events around the community. I think actually Mayor Garnes signed us up for a new one in Dell coming up. I don't know the details of that, but I know that we are going to be tabling in your community soon. But so we've just been trying to listen and hear people's thoughts and concerns and excitement. And now we're at the point where we're taking recommendations, and we're going to bring them back out to community members and say, hey, did we get this right? What do we have wrong? What can we do to make this better? Does this plan fit with your vision for the trail? So we're kind of in that phase. We're starting to get our draft plans together, which is really exciting. And we'll be looking forward to bringing them out to community members, and also to, city employees and city managers and people who might, help us to potentially build the trail one day. So, so that's where we are. Next slide. And I just wanted to share some of the things that we're hearing so far. And this is a little shot from our Fortuna meeting. But there are a lot of concerns that people have about the trail, and it's not just about this trail. I think that these are concerns that people have about a lot of new trails. But folks are concerned about trespassing and security, particularly people who are landowners that are adjacent to the trail. Many folks were concerned about new fire hazards if people are starting campfires in fire sensitive areas. They're also concerned about encampments, and we know that the rail corridor has been a location where encampments have formed in a lot of different jurisdictions. So those are very legitimate concerns. And then also folks, particularly in the agricultural community, are worried about the impact of having public access next to working lands and what we could do in regards to like fencing or not fencing, or how we mitigate any type of people accessing anyone's property or during times of agricultural operation. But in addition to those concerns, people are also really excited for the trail. It's a mixed bag. We've heard a lot from both sides. And one of the things that people are most excited about are the opportunity to access the rivers. The trail, really, the rail corridor is right on the river for most of it. And people are really excited about new opportunities to be able to get out on the river. New swimming holes or, launches, whatever that may be. People are also really excited about being able to kind of use this as a north-south corridor, and they can travel east-west. They want to be able to connect to their neighborhood. They want to be able to connect to different, to their grocery store using the trail. So that's another thing. And then also people are really excited about economic development opportunities. And that includes, the trail is going to be going through so many different unique communities, including Dell. And, what can we do to celebrate, maybe make trail towns and kind of get people excited about destinations on the trail that can become tourist destinations. So next slide, please. So in this master plan, we're really just making a high level roadmap on the trail. Each section will need to do after we kind of prioritize which sections will be built first, etc., we will start to dig in really deep on the details and, what the designs will look like. So this is just our high level, how we're planning on building the trail and operating and maintaining it. And I put a star next to all these pieces that we're working on right now. So I guess everything except for the funding sources, but I will say that I work for a primary funder of trails. So we have a fairly good grasp on this. We just have to write that section. So we're starting to we're going to have a draft of our operations and maintenance plan next week. We're starting to look at trail design. And we're also going to be having a draft of our habitat restoration plan and cultural natural resources protection plans coming up very soon that we'll be looking forward to sharing. And maybe on the habitat restoration note, I think that one of the goals coming out of it that we're hearing is that as we're building the trail, people are interested in us doing restoration projects along with that. And I think a great example is that the Elk River Estuary project that the city of Eureka just did. They built a 1 mile section of trail, and they also did a big restoration project on the estuary, and that was funded in part by the State Coastal Conservancy. And those are the types of projects we're looking to implement in different places. So. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to give a little overview of the trail in Humboldt County. And next slide. Just in case you don't know where it goes, it really, the rail corridor follows 101, except for it kind of, if you're coming up from Mendocino North, it offshoots at Covelo Road and starts to follow the Eel River. And so it goes through Alder Point and is following the Eel and kind of connects back up to 101 around Founders Grove, which we're seeing as that being kind of one of the primary best destinations to be able to see redwoods on the trail. And then, the trail comes up, goes around Rio Dell, and then continues north. Sorry, guys. Next slide, please. It skirts up through kind of the edge of town of Fortuna and then along the bay. And right now it ends in Blue Lake. That becomes the Annie and Mary Trail because it was the former Arcata and Mad River Railroad. And so that is the kind of trail corridor in red. If you could please, next slide. And there are a lot of projects that have already happened in Humboldt County. And it's really kind of spectacular the amount of work that Humboldt County has done on trails already. So that Humboldt County itself has funded now. Actually, I'm in town in part because I'm going to the groundbreaking of the Humboldt Bay Trail South, which is the connection between Eureka and Arcata. That's happening this week. They're doing the groundbreaking. They've also started a study to extend the trail from Eureka to College of the Redwoods, and that will be happening this year. The city of Blue Lake has already completed their little section of the Annie and Mary, and it's already being well loved and used by the community. City of Arcata already has the Arcata Rail Trail, which is a part of the trail. And they received an ATP grant for to extend the trail actually north on the way to Blue Lake, not all the way. But they received that. I think that's going to be happening over the next few years to do this connection. And then the city of Eureka has already built most of the sections of trail except for in the in downtown Old Town. Next slide. Yeah. And you want to throw out that we have, in addition to all these kind of studies that we're looking at, we completed an economic benefits analysis of the trail. And that's one of the things that we looked at first, because we know that that is, a driving force for why you would build a trail like this. And there are some great results. And so this is available on our website, and I can send it to anyone upon request. But we are estimating that there would be over $100 million in economic benefits from the trail annually. And this is from a complete trail. So, who knows when that will happen in the future. But this is for and looking at the Mendocino through Humboldt counties. And Humboldt County makes up half of that total estimate. So about 50 million would be the estimate for the benefits to Humboldt County. And those come primarily from opportunities for recreation and tourism and retail benefits. So people coming to use the trail, staying in lodges, staying in inns, coming to restaurants. And those benefits, the 61,000, so it's the majority of those, would be coming from people who are visitors. They're not locals. Even locals will probably use resources around the trail, but this is what we're estimating from people who would come to the trail as a destination. And these numbers were made looking at different rail trails across the country that are similar or would be similar when this is complete. But part of the benefits also would be the added health benefits to people having places to walk and to bike, and reducing healthcare costs, and then also the benefits to reducing the load on the transportation system, reducing carbon emissions. Those aren't as much, but they're still there. So those are all things that we foresee happening with the completed trail. Next slide, please. And we did specifically call out a lot of the cities in this economic study. And so the thought is that once the city section is complete, then the benefits to Rio Dell would be over $2 million annually. And once again, that's mostly in tourism benefits, but also some of these transportation and additional health benefits for the community. Next slide. And then I wanted to do just a little focus on Rio Dell itself, and just say that we know, I guess you've gotten a lot of love from our Great Road Trail Agency board members. They're concerned about us skipping Rio Dell, and we don't want to be skipping Rio Dell. So I just, we know that there's a lot of opportunities in your area, and that includes your proximity to all these really key destinations, being, kind of the closest city to where the redwoods are and where people are really going to be wanting to visit. It's going to be one of the key destinations at Humboldt Redwood State Park. We also know that the track condition north of town, so in the connection to Fortuna, it's actually fairly good. So that makes it a lot easier for us to, prioritize maybe building that section. And then I also want to just shout out the amazing work you've done with your downtown core and the bike ped improvements that are already there that people could connect with off of the trail. But of course, you may know there are some constraints with the trail. And one is that the railroad right now does go around, around town. So we've got to work through that. But then also, there's a lot of geomorphic constraints related to the Scotia Bluffs and building a trail that would go over there. And so maybe I could just, if you hit to the next slide, you can see my terrible homemade graphic. Oh, okay, is this it? Yeah, maybe can you hit one more? There we go. Okay, so this is I wish I could be better at PowerPoint, but in blue, I drew where this is your circulation plan and your kind of trail plan for the city. In blue, we've drawn where the rail corridor is. And then I wanted to shout, there have been plans that have looked at how to bring the trail through town. I think it's the Eureka to Scotia trail plan that already exists. And so we are looking at, part of the master plan is we have the option to develop conceptual designs for a certain number of segments. And we were actually really hoping we could develop one for Dell and maybe start looking at it with you guys. So this is my crappy drawing of it. If you press one more, it would be great if we could just make this essentially this connection off of the trail into your downtown core. We know we're looking at trying to make the trail as light on the land as possible, and in areas where there's really big geological constraints like the Scotia Bluffs, we think that perhaps it's a better use of the trail for it to not be a big paved trail and to be more of a, it could be a backcountry trail with the business route option of going straight into the center of Rio Dell so that you guys get the economic benefits and the tourism benefits of having people come into your downtown core. I will say that there are, if you press the slide one more time, there's a really big constraint with your bridge needing to, there needs to be some bike and ped enhancements. But at the same time, I know that Caltrans is redoing the bridge right now, and this is a really great time for advocacy and,
They swore to us that they were gonna have a bike lane.
Okay, this is perfect. So this is, I would say, keep advocating, because that is just gonna make this, if you do it now, this makes it a million times easier for us to make these other connections, or at least, we can do some signage improvements to route people from the trail. So these are all potential options. And I apologize for my terrible sketch, but this hopefully will become a really beautiful part of our plan that can actually be useful to your employees when our consultants make it. And so if you go to the next slide, please. So just to wrap up, and next slide as well, we have a couple upcoming events. The next round of community meetings are in July. We are hosting one in Alder Point and one in Hopland. And along with that, we're going to have an online community meeting for people to be able to attend if they can't make either of those two. The very last set of meetings, one will be in Eureka and one will be in Ukiah. So we're trying to we could only do 6 meetings. We're trying to get as much of a spread out as we can, but people are always welcome to attend via Zoom. And then we'll be at several tabling events in your community, including this additional one that I wish I looked at my email again, but we did sign up for a new one that's in Rio Dell specifically, but we'll be at the Humboldt County Fair, the Fortuna Rodeo, 4th of July Festival to try to talk to people. And then next slide. And then if anybody, members of the public, are interested in commenting, we have a website that has all this information on it. We've got a newsletter people can sign up for. You can take our survey, or if you just want to leave us a voicemail and talk to us to try to get to staff directly, you can leave a comment that way at this voicemail number. And that's available on our website also at greatredwoodtrailplan.org. Next slide. Okay, and then we have some project contacts that I just wanted to keep in there. So that includes Louisa Morris, who's the Mendocino County and Trinity County. She's the lead project manager for the project. And then Humboldt County, we're working with Redwood Community Action Agency. So it's Carol Vandermeer, and then Jen Rice, who also has been someone who's worked on the Humboldt Bay Trail for a very long time, and her consulting firm. Next slide. So I think that's it. And I just want to thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And if I can answer any questions. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I will turn it over to the council for questions. Council Member Wilson.
I'm glad that you have planned to go, in fact, to migrate through the city. The original intent of the rail was you never cross the river. That was what they were trying to not do. So that's what makes the issue of Rio Dell is you have to cross the river and then you have to cross back.
Yeah.
But you could do that through Scotia. Once you got across the bridge, you got into Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
You could, because that's back on the other side of the river. Other than that, not very nice presentation.
Thank you. Council Member Orr.
No questions. My second time through this one.
Yeah.
so-
Oh, sorry.
No, you have different, I've seen it before too, but this one had more specifics for real adults. Councilmember Little.
Okay, what about maintenance? Because it's really, it could get bad during the winter time. That was part of the reason the rails quit coming up. And there's Island Mountain Tunnel. What would you be doing? That was a problem too. What, are they going to be going through Island Mountain Tunnel?
So, we know Island Mountain Tunnel is the 1 mile long tunnel that is on the rail line. And, we know that it's perhaps sensitive bat habitat. There's a lot of bats that are occupying it, so much so that you can't go through it without a gas mask on from what we hear, because there's a lot of guano. So, we are working with the Wildlands Conservancy, who is a new landowner. They, on the trail, they own the section around Island Mountain. And, I think that they're a willing landowner for us to look at a reroute that would route the trail just on the, around the tunnel instead of through it. And so that's something that we'll be looking at. When it comes to long-term maintenance, I think we know that that's always, O&M is always an issue. We're looking at ways to help to fund that. I think the Great Redwood Trail Agency is looking at ways to help to fund that. And to see if there's any interesting or unique different community methods for funding that. So I think like City of Arcata they've got a measure in place to be able to help fund their parks and recreation. But yeah, I think that funding for maintenance, we're still kind of diving into that, and we're about to have a draft maintenance plan that our consultants are going through, but it's something that we're definitely concerned about. And well, I will say that in addition, in the Eel River Canyon, we're not trying to make the trail. The feedback that we've gotten from the community is we can't maintain our roads around the Eel River Canyon. Why would you remake a road in this location when the railroad failed? And so we're trying to really take that to heart, and we envision this as being more of a backcountry trail, really like a single track, easy trail to maintain. So, so that's the thought. It has a significantly lighter maintenance load than, let's say, a paved trail or a gravel high width trail.
So what's the longest distance between towns that you might have to ride without being able to get off to access a town or access 101? What would be the longest distance?
I don't have a good answer to that question right now, but from the way that we're looking at building the trail is starting, and particularly this, I think matters the most for, in relation to Dell and to the cities in Humboldt County, we want to make long connected stretches. I think that that's going to be something that we can prioritize. We also want to prioritize building easy segments that have access on both ends, that people can get in and out of it. So those are things that we're looking at. And when it comes to the really remote sections of the trail, we don't want to build sections of the trail where there won't be access points in and out. And we want to go slow and steady and take our time and do this process well. We also know it's a big change for people who live in the canyon. And so, we want to do it very intentionally and to make sure that there's services to support them, or that there's, we're looking into the potential of rangers on the trail or what that might be. But that's something we're looking into, because we know that's a big community concern, and of course a concern for ourselves as well.
So there in sections where there's a longer section where you might not be able to get off trail, there might be camping areas.
So it does look like, the Great Redwood Trail Agency, the corridor that we own, where there are stations, there are actually quite a bit of flat land that we own in addition to just the railroad corridor that stations used to be at. So we're looking at these areas as potential options for camping. We're also hoping that, as the trail is built, that private citizens may be interested in developing camping options. And that could be, one of these great more economic opportunities for folks to be able to do farm tours or to host, or to do the hip camp. We know that's really successful on the Mendocino coast. So that's something we're looking at.
Because we get a lot of bicycle traffic.
Yeah.
Going up and down the coast. And a lot of people want to go ahead and follow the coast, but sometimes it's not an option, and that would give them a great way to keep going south without going along the ocean, because that could get kind of scary.
Yeah,
Will there be any water supplies along the road? I mean, along the trail?
I think we're looking at what type of supplies we're gonna be hosting for the trailheads, but I think in urban areas, we're hoping
Yeah,
to
would need it.
supply, we're hoping to supply more resources there and then try to, make more of a backcountry experience for people in the backcountry areas. So we're a little bit more looking at self-reliance than having a really highly resourced trail that we can't keep up with and we start at a standard that we can't maintain, so.
I used to ride it a lot, so some of these questions are from when I used to ride a lot.
Yeah.
Make sure it's
So great.
supply places, make sure you have water.
Yeah,
Places to camp. I think it would be great. I think, especially like I said, we have a lot of bicycle traffic
yeah,
up and down the coast.
thank you so much.
Awesome question.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's lovely. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you at the Trail Summit, and I'm very happy to see you again here. I also want to thank you again for your slides that were Rio Dell specific. The biggest concern that I've heard in this specific community is the trail is going to go around town and we're not going to see any benefits from it. So I do appreciate you addressing that, and I appreciate being one of the sections that you might do, alternative conceptual designs for. And Caltrans did say they were going to put a bike lane.
That is great.
They said so. It was my question specifically, so I know they said that. Yes, it takes me back to the time I spent on the Oregon sections of the Pacific Crest Trail and some of the more backcountry places, and I'm telling you, it was great. You get your buddy, your sister, and we would just explore and pull off in these little towns whenever we needed something and we didn't know what that day brought, but it was a really, really great way to explore a new landscape and, get a more boots on the ground style experience of it. So I very, very much look forward to having something like that in our own backyard. If there's ever anything you need from us to about, alternative conceptual designs, anything like
We'll
that.
definitely be reaching out.
Yeah, please reach out to me, to anybody. We all love this idea.
Great.
And that is it for me. Do we have questions or comments from members of the public?
I have one question. Will there be signage for like historical or points of interest or anything along the trail?
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. We're also our plan includes a wayfinding plan. I will say that we're running a little bit behind schedule on that, but we are hoping to have that also completed by January. But yeah, I think because everyone's so excited about connecting with local resources in the community, we're hoping to have kind of a standardized, way to mark sites of interest. So.
I was gonna ask, there could be any kind of the safety call systems that are out, some of those along the trail, especially in areas where you aren't gonna have access, and you have sketchy cell service.
Yeah.
Shortly out of town. It's a great system. I lived in Eugene for a number of years and their bike system is just fantastic. And it's, they actually have a separate drain system for bikes, separate bridges. It's fantastic. And it is just a huge economic driver. That follows the river, the Willamette River. It's just beautiful. So I'm really excited to see anything come together here where we can use it. And one other selling point for Rio Dell would be the access then to bicyclists that are, masochists below these hills can go over Blue Slide to Ferndale and get to the coast that way too. And your tourists love that, and they're going to come into the area. And that's another reason to build Rio Dell into your plans rather than circumvent.
Well, and to answer for the emergency call boxes, we are interviewing, I'm speaking as Humboldt County Sheriff on Thursday, as well as the Mendocino County Sheriff and some of the police departments to try to understand this better. We've also been speaking with CAL FIRE. We've heard mixed opinions on the effectiveness of call boxes out here, and so we're trying to figure out the best way that we can make sure that people, if they press on something, that they can actually call somebody, or if it's going to be in the very remote areas, the burden will be on people to have their own little jet satellite GPS or whatever that might be. So we're looking into that. But thank you so much. I'll look into the Eugene trails. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
And I do think one of the nice things about trails like this is that you can kind of pick and choose. Like I did the PCT in chunks.
Yeah.
Right, do you want like a more connected chunk where you have a little bit more access, or do you want that really self-reliant kind of experience and being able to pick and choose? So, yeah, that's great. Any other questions from the public? Yes.
At Founder's Grove, is it going to go across that trestle? So that's the plan, that it would go across the trestle. And hopefully, the State Parks is working with Save the Redwoods League to do a big redevelopment of Founder's Grove. They're taking the parking lot out of the grove, because it's not good for the roots. So they learned, so we're hoping that, kind of building the trail out might be a part of that, expansion. They're gonna do some more interpretive signs there, so. But yeah, the plan is to use the infrastructure as much as we can. Yeah, as much as we can. That one is not in terrible condition for my. It's beautiful. Yeah, and it's a beautiful one, so, yeah.
Any other questions from the public? Any hands raised or emails? No. Okay, well, with that, once again, Simone, thank you so much, and I look forward to being in touch with you, so I think we're gonna be seeing a lot.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, and with that, we will move on to special call items, community affairs or public hearings. This one is to approve the proposed Recology Eel River rate adjustment and accept it as an amendment to the solid waste and recycling franchise agreement effective July 1st, 2023, page 83 in our packets. I'll hand it over to you, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Carter. Members of the council, so this is an annual item that comes before the council. It's a little early this year, but that's great. Typically comes in June. And so the way that solid waste services work in the city of Rio Dell is we have a solid waste franchise agreement. So it's an exclusive agreement with Recology Eel River to collect and remove solid waste and other materials from the city of Rio Dell. So we have this contract with Recology Eel River that kind of spells out how that process works and how the annual rate adjustment process goes as well. So in Humboldt County, Rio Dell is also a member of the Humboldt Waste Management Authority, which is ultimately where solid waste is disposed of that is generated in Rio Dell. So there's kind of two components here. One is our franchise rate hauler, and annually it's also Humboldt Waste Management Authority, which includes the cities of Blue Lake, Arcata, Eureka, Ferndale, Rio Dell, and the unincorporated county. So this year, and as always, the contract with Recology Eel River is set by adjustments in CPI, so the Consumer Price Index, which last year and again this year are pretty substantial in terms of past historical performance. What it ultimately boils down to is about 48 cents a ton. Related to our franchise hauler, and what the increase for this year related to HWMA is about $31.94 per ton. So there's a lot of different reasons for some of the adjustments. Again, the adjustments for our franchise hauler are CPI set. However, for Humboldt Waste Management Authority, there's a lot of different factors that play into adjustments that the HWMA board makes. So in this particular case, with the decline of the cannabis industry in Humboldt County, there has been a reduction of what is called backhaul services. So all of the trash, solid waste in Humboldt County eventually is exported by truck to landfills inland of Humboldt County. And if you're only exporting, you also have to pay for those trucks to be driven back. And so one of the ways in the past the efficiency was gained on that to keep rates low was to backhaul materials, so soil and hog fuel and other things related to energy generation and cannabis. There's also been increased labor costs, and historically, We've always had new regulatory requirements, including now SB 1383. But we have a long-term lack of kind of fee increases. The HWA fees have been pretty level for the better part of a decade now. But there's just a lot of regulatory changes and some changes economically that are disadvantaging the efficiencies associated with hauling services. So with that, we have Linda Wise, the general manager for Recology Eel River, and who took over back in 2017 or 18. The original contract was with Eel River Disposal at Harry Hardin's outfit. And Recology Eel River now pretty much serves most of Humboldt County, with the exception of Blue Lake and McKinleyville, and maybe a couple unincorporated areas. But we want to thank Linda for being here, and she's more than happy and ecstatic to answer any questions that
camera. If you have any questions.
Okay.
Let me also just add, on page 84 of your packet, the council some years ago asked staff to produce this graph annually that also helps to break down kind of the fees, where they come from, what they are going towards. And so you see the fees on the top associated with our franchise holder, and then you also see our HWA fees. And then we also have kind of this third fee, that's the Fortuna host fee associated with the facility in Fortuna. And so you can compare those fee rates and sets over time to where they are today and proposed to start on July 1st. On the next page, on page 85, is an email from Linda, kind of explaining a little bit of the fees. And so your typical residential 30-gallon service, picked up weekly, we go from $30.25 a month up to $34.60 a month at this point in time. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Linda and see if there's any questions that the council may have. And otherwise, we would recommend the adoption of the rates setting and effective July 1st.
Questions?
No, but I can answer anything that you have. He pretty much covered it.
Yeah, we got it. Okay, so Councilmember Orr, do you have any questions for Linda?
No questions.
Councilmember Woodall, do you have any questions? Okay, and Councilmember Wilson?
Just kind of explain to us, I talked to you earlier, but it is confusing to normalize it. Even to me, it's confusing.
Right.
With all of the between HWA and whatever. But just as kind of give us an example, it's in the packet, but some of the people watching may not have that. What it's going to cost somebody with typically a 32-gallon or 30-gallon can with recycling, what's that going to cost them compared to last year?
Right. So as I explained to him, is about 65% of the rate relates to the coming down here and picking up, supplying a recycling can, our fuel, all those kind of things. And another 32 to 33% of it relates to the disposal costs. So that's what we consider when we do rates every year. So last year, the average rate for the most common rate that people would have in a residential service would be $30.25, and it included a recycling service that we supply the can every other week. Green waste is an additional charge and happens every other week. That's the way it is currently. So with the increases with disposal and CPI this year, it's going to be going up to about to $34.60 a month as your average size. That's about a $4.35 change per month. I worked it out. It's about $1 a week, $52 a year that it's going to be going up related to this. So that's pretty much what the impact is. So I think because we bill residents every 2 months, they might see like a chunk, like a $10 change or something close to $10 and think it's gone up a lot, but it's actually about $4.35. And, yeah, so, and I have to say that the Waste Authority has done a really good job at keeping their rates pretty much flat over the, like Kyle was saying, in the last decade. It didn't have rate increases for like 7 or 8 years. And so it's unusual to see a rate increase of this size because they are having to prepare for a pretty big regulatory change that's happening in the state of California and prepare Humboldt County for it. So.
That's the 1383.
1383.
Thank you.
Is that it for you? Okay. I have no questions. Thank you for being here. Are there questions from members of the public present here? For Linda? Once, twice? Hearing none. Do we have any emails or hands raised? No? Okay. Thank you again for being here. Were you gonna say something? No, okay. Can I have a motion to accept the staff recommendation and approve the proposed rate adjustment with Recology Eel River?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please vote. Vote carries 4-1. Okay. 4-0. Sorry, there's one on this for black. Okay, we will now move on to council members and council reports and communications. Number 1.
No, I think tomorrow we have the nuisance
Yes.
abatement committee meeting, and that's at 3:00 here in the council room. And then on the 19th, we have our beautification walkability committee meeting at 9:00 also here in the council room.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember Orr.
Not too much to report. I have HCOG meeting this week. Other than that, not a lot.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilson.
We had an HWMA meeting, which you saw the results of with approving the budget, with that substantial increase to them. It also had a RCDA budget meeting yesterday, and everybody, everywhere you go, all the wages are going up. It's a HWMA and RCDA, and so on. And when it comes to negotiating time, that's going to probably affect our budget as well, and everybody's. The way the sad part is, there's such a small pool of employees with the skills that we need. All the cities are grabbing, or agencies are kind of robbing the guy with the biggest bag is stealing off some of the people. It looks like we have some good mainstream main players, but I know we've suffered from it too. So anything that we do to encourage people to stay as a council, I think is going to be a big plus to the city.
That's me. Okay, that comes to me, and Julie, you hit the Nuisance Advisory Committee and the Beautification and Walkability Committee. The Chamber of Commerce is go-ho working on Wildwood Days. So it seems early, but it's not that early. It's coming up first weekend in August. We have a country western theme this time, back in the saddle again. We thought that it was appropriate, considering that we've had some hard times in the city lately, and we still want to do a western theme, but we are back in the saddle. So get your cowboy boots and your hats and stuff ready for Wildwood Days. My REDEC meeting was canceled this coming Monday due to lack of important business. And over this past weekend, I went to a Cal Cities Redwood Region meeting in Fort Bragg. Heard from the Great Redwood Trail, a slightly different presentation, but it's nice that y'all are out and hidden, covering all your bases. Also heard a good presentation there on the city of Fort Bragg's care unit. It's people who are hired, civilians hired into police departments to handle the homeless population and other such calls like that. And as I listened, I thought, that's a great idea. And then I thought, our community resource center is doing a really, really bang up job over there. So I did want to give them a shout out. And lastly, I would like to thank Councilmember Woodall for getting those flowers in. There's, I see you poking up. I've seen you out in the water, even on the hottest of days. And it is something that makes our town look really, really nice every single summer. And people look forward to it and ask, when are the flowers coming back? So thank you. And I think that is it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I still move.
Okay, meeting adjourned until June 6th, 6:30 p.m. Thank you.